Good afternoon, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the media partners for being here this afternoon. Due to changes in state and national law, the state accountability system has changed every year that I've been superintendent here in Kentucky. I hope that providing some comments this afternoon, you would have the information you need to help you inform our community and give them a fuller picture of the success in Fayette County Public Schools and our continued work. We have some dignitaries here this afternoon I want to recognize. We have the president of our 16th District PTA, Penny Christian. We also are joined by the 16th District PTA Diversity and Inclusion Chair, Ms. Rolanda Woodford. I also want to recognize Fayette County Public Schools, our district, our school leaders, our teachers, our staff, for the hard work they do each and every day in order to ensure that our children's future is brighter. So I want to give them a hand and recognize them as well. And then in addition to those with us, I do want to recognize our school chiefs. We have Heather Bell, Faith Thompson, Antonio Watts. Let's give them a hand as well for the work they do each and every day. Now, as you know, the state test data is still under embargo. I will make my comments so they are appropriate for you to air tomorrow. But I want to remind you and everyone that nothing can be shared publicly until after midnight. The results from the state and national tests taken by students last spring and released Tuesday by the Kentucky Department of Education confirm that Fayette County Public Schools is taking the right steps to improve targeted schools and expand access and opportunity for every student. Following an extensive audit last spring, the Kentucky Department of Education concluded for the second time during my tenure that our district has the capacity to drive improvement of our schools. Today's data release makes it clear that with the flexibility afforded to our district, for the first time last year under changes to state law, we made substantive changes that are yielding results for our students. 6 of the 7 schools identified for comprehensive support and improvement last fall based on performance in the bottom 5% of schools in the state made improvements that moved them out of that status. Our district embraced the opportunity we were given to examine existing practices, reconsider current strategies, identify innovative solutions, and make mid-course adjustments with the support of our school board. We are pleased to see those gains, but we also have to keep those labels in perspective as just one more piece of information to help complete the picture of student success in Fayette County Public Schools. At the elementary school level, Fayette County scores on the proficiency indicator, separate academic indicator, growth indicator, and overall weighted score are higher than the state. Yes, you can clap for that. At the middle school level, Fayette County scores on the proficiency indicator, the separate academic indicator, the growth indicator, and overall weighted score are higher than the state as well. At the high school level, Fayette County scores on the proficiency indicator is higher than the state. And as a point of emphasis, Kentucky Department of Education leaders have said the new STAR system is not designed to rank Kentucky schools. The rating is also not meant to necessarily be a judgment or a negative mark. State officials cautioned it is meant to start conversations about how to support student success. Even before today's scores and brand new STAR ratings were released, the district had already launched additional plans to accelerate student achievement. For example, the 2 elementary schools rated as one-star schools by the state have already been transformed into Promise Academies for this year. We certainly appreciate and respect the role that the Kentucky Department of Education plays in accountability. In addition to the information we received from them, our journey to becoming a world-class system of great schools requires us to hold ourselves accountable for monitoring multiple data points and leading indicators throughout the school year in order to make those mid-course adjustments. 3 years ago, Fayette County began using a national assessment to gauge student progress 3 times a year in every school and to monitor growth to see if students are mastering the content they need to be successful in school and beyond. Results from the 2018-19 school year showed that in every grade level, kindergarten through 8th grade, our students scored higher than a national average in both reading and math. They also posted growth higher than a national average in both reading and math as well, which tells us that Fayette County teachers are helping our students achieve more throughout the course of the school year. The data indicated especially high growth in the district's former CSI schools. And for our kindergarten students, who posted more growth in math than 99% of the rest of the nation, and more growth in reading than 97% of the country. Our district and school leaders also review walkthrough data, family survey results, and classroom assessments. In the spring of 2019, half the families we serve participated in the annual family survey. According to those nearly 13,000 survey respondents, 91% said their child is engaged by the learning activities at school. 86% said teachers had high expectations for their child. 92% said their child is safe at school. 88% said their child enjoys going to school, and 87% would recommend their child's school to a friend or a colleague. ACT scores and advanced placement scores are 2 other measures that show how our local students stack up on nationally normed exams. In 2019, Fayette County juniors once again posted higher composite and subject level ACT scores than the state average. Last year in America, less than 0.02% of the students who took the ACT scored a perfect 36. Our graduating class of 2019 included 21 of them, 5 times the national rate. While Fayette County accounts for roughly 6% of the students in the state, 22% of Kentucky's National Merit semifinalists are proud to call Fayette County schools home. When you look at the performance on advanced placement exams, 72% of Fayette County public school students tested scored a 3 or better, and that success cuts across race and socioeconomic groups. If you compare our white students in Fayette County to white students across Kentucky, our Hispanic students in Fayette County to Hispanic students across Kentucky, or students living in poverty in Fayette County to students living in poverty across Kentucky, our students earn college-bearing credit scores 1.5 times more often. For our black students, the rate is 1.75 times greater. And because we know that learning is more relevant when students can see the connection between their courses and the real world, we transformed 3 of our high schools into smaller learning communities, organized around career interests aligned to future employment opportunities, such as medicine, information technology, engineering, manufacturing, and robotics. In partnership with community and business leaders, that work is yielding tangible results for our students. Over the past 4 years, the number of students obtaining industry certification has grown nearly 1,200%. From 364 students in 2015-16 school year to 4,673 students in the 2018-19 school year. Now, we continuously ask ourselves, how are we doing on delivering on our promise of ensuring all students achieve at high levels and graduate prepared to excel in a global society? While the data demonstrates that many of our students are getting a great education, we have high expectations for every student. We will not be content until we can say with confidence that every child is reaching his or her unlimited potential. District leaders assemble measures from multiple sources of data to gauge how well schools are meeting the needs of students they serve and intensify support at schools where student achievement is not meeting expectations. Our tiered support models include partnership zone schools, where schools are assigned support teams that meet regularly at the school and receive additional resources, such as more staffing and extended learning opportunities for students, as well as our empowerment zone schools to provide more concentrated support and additional resources. Last year, when we had 7 schools identified for comprehensive support and improvement, we built on those models and added other innovations and resources. Each of the 7 schools received an external review and developed a turnaround plan for implementation this year with the assistance of a turnaround team. We will continue to implement those turnaround plans and invest needed resources and support beyond the removal of that CSI label. Even prior to today's accountability release, we know those supports were making a difference because our data shows that students at all 7 comprehensive support and improvement schools, all 6 of our partnership zone schools, and 3 of the 5 empowerment zone schools posted high growth and improved academic achievement in reading and math. Yes. Another piece of data included in the school report cards made public today helps illuminate why those gains are so critical. Across our community last year, 51% of incoming kindergartners were considered ready for school based on the state assessment. Now, there's variations between schools paint a stark picture of the income and opportunity gap in Fayette County. Consider that at 3 Fayette County public schools, more than 80% of the children who entered school reached that kindergarten, came in prepared for kindergarten. They met or exceeded that benchmark. You contrast that at 3 other Fayette County schools, more than 90% of the incoming kindergarten students were not ready for school. Now that's sobering. This shows clearly that the gap exists before students ever enter the schoolhouse door. As we advocate for state funding for full-day kindergarten and greater investment in early childhood, we are going to need support from our entire community to strengthen families and support school readiness. At a time when we are serving more students than ever before, and a percentage of those students living in poverty continues to climb, we are still making substantive academic gains and opening access and opportunity so that demography does not determine a child's destiny. I'm especially proud that we've been able to catalyze equity and invest in strategic priorities that are making a difference in the lives of the students and families while keeping tax rates flat for the second time in 4 years. You can clap for that. That's important. That's important. Now, over the past 2 years, our district has invested over $12 million to provide a high-quality reading and math curriculum and state-of-the-art instructional materials for every classroom in every school, grades K through 12. For a 4th consecutive year, we've hired more teachers to work with students who have special needs, students who have been identified as gifted and talented, and students whose home language is not English. A cumulative investment of close to $3 million to hire 45 additional teachers. In just a few short years, our district has made unprecedented investments in advance equity and opportunity for every student. Individual schools will communicate with their families about the state accountability results released. Just as we recognize areas for growth and establish support teams, we also celebrate schools that meet and exceed our standards for excellence. Many Fayette County public schools have effectively implemented high-yield strategies, culture-responsive teaching and learning, and effective systems of organizational management that yielded high levels of achievement for all students. More important than today's score label is the work that happens next. The real focus should be on what we're going to do differently because of what we see. And I encourage all of our families and community members to partner with our school and support substantive changes. As I said before, we have two moral imperatives in Fayette County. We have our students who are reaching towards proficiency, and we must accelerate those and help them get there faster. We also have students who are proficient, and we must help them reach global competency faster. Our students deserve no less. Thank you. Please.
Our reporter that's covering this tomorrow, she's kind of been looking at this, so I apologize if I wasn't very educated on all of it.
No problem.
But I guess one of her questions was some of the more high-performing schools. Thank you. I guess some of the more high-performing schools lost a star because of their achievement gaps. Her question is, do you agree with the state's decision to take away stars based on achievement gaps, and really, how do you address those achievement gaps?
And that's a great question. As the Kentucky Department of Education leaders have stated, and I concur, the star label isn't meant to be a judgment or meant to be something punitive. It's meant to be a conversation starter in terms of where we must go, and not something that says this is the conclusion. For us and for Fayette County, we're always looking at several data points. Some of those data points are leading indicators, so we can make adjustments and add additional resources. Those resources to date have, if you quantify them, close to $3 million in terms of additional resources for students with special needs, our gifted and talented, as well as students whose home language is other than English. We'll continue to make those investments. What we're pleased to say, based on this data, is that there were no significant gaps at the elementary level. At middle school, there were, 3 gifted and talented students with disability and our English learners. And at high school, African American students with disability, middle school was gifted and talented as well. High school, African American students with disabilities, gifted and talented, and English learners. We're always looking at our data and looking at where can we make additional investments and support so that more students experience victory in the classroom. And so we always use data, one, to spotlight what's working well, what are we doing that is giving us a return on investment, but also looking at it with an eye towards continuous improvement. And where do we drive the resources and supports so that more students experience victory in the classroom?
And I'm sure you're already making plans on how to improve some of the worst-rated schools in the district. What are some of those plans, and what do you do from here? I'm
sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so I'm sure you guys are already making plans on how to handle some of the worst-rated schools in the district. Kind of talk about those plans. What do you do to kind of develop
first,
that?
The worst-rated, I definitely I take exception to that because, again, you're misusing and mischaracterizing the STAR system. It's not meant to paint a label to be punitive, nor is it meant to be judgmental, right? And so in Fayette County, when you look at 1 star, for example, we have 4 schools in the entire system. 2 of those schools, we implemented turnaround plans in our Promise Academies, and we're doing that work. And the other 2, we're very confident in our high school transformation at work at that high school. In fact, that high school graduation rate for blacks is over 90%. And so we know we're doing the right work. We're going to continue to look at not just this data, but other data that we use and continue to make improvements based on that data.
Thanks, Superintendent. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The CSI schools that shifted out of that category, Does the decision-making in those schools go back from your office to site-based councils? How does that work?
And that's a great question as well. And so once that authority is conferred to the superintendent based on the CSI label, for us, that authority will remain with the superintendent because, as you may recall, those schools were identified last year, and we're very proud that 85% of our schools identified made it out. And also, it's important to note, we did not have any other schools identified for CSI. Right? That says a lot. With that said, all 7 of those schools received an external audit. We have a turnaround team. We've implementing those plans July 1. We'll continue to implement those plans through the duration of that turnaround plan, which is 3 years. So we're going to continue to provide those supports. What happens oftentimes, you remember under NCLB, which is No Child Left Behind Act, as soon as a school made it out, the school improvement grants, the SIG grants, those resources went away. And what happened to those schools? They quickly reverted and went back to underperformance. What we want to do is make sure, and I said this last year, that once we provide these resources, we're committed to those resources and committed to the execution of those turnaround plans. All right, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.